All right, we kind of got probably one of the more unusual ones tonight. I recruited some help to sing this song to. We're going to kind of have a mini choir tonight with Brother Dean and Miss Loretta on tonight's song. But anyway, the old song's called He'll Hold My Hand. Do you remember that one? The actual title's When I've Traveled My Last Mile Here. Now, the reason it's one of the more unusual of our history of the hymns, it was written by a man by the name of Henry J. Donohue. Now, here's where it gets kind of strange. I couldn't find any biographical information on anybody by that name. I sent an email to my friend Todd Glazner, who has, he's just like a professor of the hymns out in Indiana and Indianapolis. He said, I've never heard of this guy. He said, I'm not sure. It's a great old song. And then Joe was going to have a procedure done to his eye. Yvonne said, well, I'll have a look. Well, she didn't find anything either. So, but Toll did tell me that that this song was published from Stamps Baxter back in 1941. The name Henry Donohue might be a pseudonym, a pen name. It's very possible, he said, that Mr. Donohue was on staff at Stamps Baxter there as an employee, and maybe he wrote some songs and they published it that way. But nonetheless, with a song like this, I'm sure Mr. Donohue is in heaven tonight. Oh, okay. I got you. Good song. And for you folks online, Miss Yvonne was telling us a whole list of people have recorded this song, well-known people. So the song really must have been popular back in that day, still popular today. So what are we going to talk about for history of the hymns? Well, it's very simple. You see, this song represents a particular type of music in this era that was called camp meeting music. And so I started looking into camp meetings, talked to the pastor about that a little bit, to find out what in the world can we learn about this from a historical standpoint. Camp meetings were a form of organized church services that took place out in the open back in the day. It was during the second and third, what they call Great Awakening in America. Originated over in Europe. There were all kinds of folks. You had the Baptists that were involved with those. You had the Methodists. You had the Presbyterians. And a lot of times they would get together, and it would be outside. There'd a lot of time be a tent, a brush arbor. Brush arbor revivals were popular in that day, and these were known to be very spirited services. And the music, especially, I found particularly interesting at camp meetings because most of the time they didn't have hymnals, so they'd sing songs that had a lot of repeats, and folks would kind of get used to singing along. It'd get familiar and that kind of thing. But these camps were held in frontier areas where people without regular preachers would travel on occasion from a large region to a particular site to camp, to pray, to sing hymns, and listen to a lot of itinerant preachers there at those places. Now, camp meetings offered a nice diversion from work because a lot of times they were held in work camps or logging camps or some kind of place where some work was going on, or some seasonal work even that was going on at that time. So it was a good time. It was usually warm weather when they did them and that kind of thing. But one thing that I found of local interest that I'd known about for a while and did some research is the Methodists tended to do this as what they call a circuit riding preacher. And that's where a preacher would get on horseback and he would ride from place to place. And one of the most famous of all of these circuit riding preachers was a man born in Wythe County, Virginia. He was raised part of his life in Abingdon, Virginia. As a matter of fact, next time you're in Abingdon, go to the county courthouse, not the federal, the county courthouse that's under construction. Walk to the house just past it, and there you'll see a plaque on that house, and it's the place where Robert Sheffey, the itinerant Methodist preacher, He wasn't raised his whole life there, but his parents passed away. These were relatives, and he grew up there. So go look and get a picture of that plaque that's there. Now, he went to Emory and Henry College over here just for a short period of time, but traded in his textbooks for a horse named Gideon and his Bible, and he set out through the hills of Southwest Virginia, Southern West Virginia. Preacher, I didn't know this. 14 counties. In this area, he traveled in a big circle. 14 counties continuously, preaching wherever he could preach. One of the most famous stories that'll make you giggle a little bit about Robert Sheffey was this. And the preacher knows this well, and I'll tell you how I know he knows this in a minute. There's a fellow with a moonshine still somewhere up in Virginia, West Virginia, and he prayed a certain kind of tree would fall on that still and destroy it. And he prayed fervently day and night, put that guy out of the whiskey business. That guy said, there's whatever that tree was, there's not a tree like that within however many miles. Well, a flood came along and washed a tree of that very type down the river and crushed his steel. And that man came to know Christ. I wonder what motivated him, right? But listen, you can learn all about Sheffey because Bob Jones University made a movie called Sheffey. And if you haven't seen it, get it. Preacher's probably got a copy. I've got a copy or two. Maybe we could do a Saturday night in the wintertime maybe and see it in the fellowship hall. Wouldn't that be fun? Something to think about. But it's a wonderful movie. But Robert Sheffey, someone who's from right here in our region, probably rode what we know as Lee Highway today on his horse named Gideon. And he passed away in 1902. And I will tell you this, he's well known enough that he and his wife are buried in a small cemetery in Giles County. That's somewhere between Dublin and Blacksburg and in that area. Narrows, Virginia's over that way. And the highway department actually has markers along the highway talking about Robert Sheffey, a preacher for the Lord, right there on the highway to see. So camp meetings were a great time. It was a joyous time. Many people got saved at camp meetings. Many people got revived at camp meetings. And this is kind of a song that you would hear. So Brother Dean, you come on up. And I tell you, if you haven't heard this song, you're going to love it. If you haven't heard it in a while, you're going to really love it again. This is an old song called When I've Traveled My Last Mile.
Do I do second?
Second. Someday when I've traveled my last mile here, the call will be coming for me. I'll enter the lifeboat that will be near to carry me over the sea. He'll hold to my hand, as over Death's river I go. Then safe I shall be, in beautiful heaven I know. My bark shall sail safely, the waves dash high, for Jesus will be at my side. He'll still the rough waters when by and by I'm crossing the river so wide. He'll hold my hand, as over Death's river I go. Then safe I shall be, in beautiful heaven I know.
I'm ready to go to that golden shore, to live while the ages shall roll. I want to meet Mother
river I go, then safe I shall be, safe I shall be, in beautiful heaven I know. He'll hold my hand, as over this river I go. Then safe I shall be, safe I shall be, in beautiful heaven I know.